Namaskar and Vanakkam. Okay, I'm a member of the Global Hindu Federation, who is the co-organizer of the event together with VASA, Vedic Academy of Science and Arts. GHF was conceived 2.5 years ago and was registered about a year ago in London. Because we found there was a need to bring a structural change looking at the ecosystem. And GHF is built on this 6 ecosystem, six pillars, namely welfare, advocacy, missionary work, administration, education. And today we're focusing on education. And Jeffrey G is a fellow Dharmic Vedic Hindu warrior whom we met in London about a year ago when Dato Pradeep had to address the House of Commons. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Armstrong, also known as Kavindra Rishi, the founder of Vedic Academy of Science and Arts. And he is also the chairman of VFA, Vedic Friends Association, and a scholar of the British Board of Dharmic Scholars. As a yoga practitioner for the last 50 years, he retired from the corporate life 25 years ago and has been teaching full-time on behalf of Vedic Sanatana Dharma. Jeffrey is a best-selling author, philosopher, poet, and Vedic astrologer. You can learn more about him through his blogs, poetry, YouTube channels, and classes by visiting his website, www.jeffreyarmstrong.com, or get a Life Without Fear ebook by Jeffrey, which is on the website. Also learn Vedic astrology in www.vasa-online.com. So I'd like to also take this opportunity to mention that Dato Pradeep Kumar Kukraja, the chairman of Global Hindu Federation, and Sandy Graham, registrar of VASA, Jeffrey's spiritual partner, is here with us. While the talk is in progress, Andrea G will type the translation of Sanskrit phrases in the message box. Parker G is on tech. Nisha G will provide GHF's social media and message boxes. So please go ahead and love and like our channels. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kavindra.
Thank you, you two, very much.
You have such a beautiful radio voice.
You do. A radiant radio voice. And Pardeep, I know that your leadership is inspiring this to happen. And so this evening is our second in a series talking about the concept of karma. And I'm going to try to take us into the deeper waters of the subject tonight. There'll be a little summary of what we spoke last time to catch everyone up. But we always begin honoring the great gurus and acharyas and rishis of the Vedic tradition. And some of the elders in the audience, I bow to you and take the opportunity to touch your feet, because this is our tradition in the Vedic civilization. We honor those who have seniority, and by bowing to them and showing them respect, we honor all the gurus and rishis, and this applies to all of you.
Okay.
And it's such an honor to be able to speak to people already learned in the Vedic culture. I know that each of you knows precious things that I would love to know, and I hope we can talk someday and learn from you as well. Now, my favorite guru mantra is the one that meant the most to me. Om Agana Timirandasya Ganangana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Gena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Because I was truly born blind, in a culture that was not interested in this great library of Vidya, of Vedic wisdom, and was taken in by the Vedic culture and by my gurus. So whatever brilliance you may hear coming from me are the sparks of Brahman and Vedic greatness that those gurus and rishis have passed forward. And I'm just trying to be a caretaker for it and to bring it out to the world. So thank you all. Now, today's subject is karma. But when we say the word karma, we immediately think that it's all about me and all of the details of the things that are going to happen to me. The downside of the way it's usually thought of is that it's got to do with what I want and don't want. So what I hope we're going to do now is go to a higher altitude, have a bigger vision, and share the vision of the rishis about karma and its place in the Vedic civilization. So the next thing is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Because Ganesha is the symbol of us as half animal, half human, part divine, part creature. And the best way to think of Ganesha is that we're all a work in progress. This is why Ganesha is so universally beloved, because this is the reminder to remove our obstacles. But aren't we our biggest obstacle most of the time? We don't want to remove ourselves, but we certainly want to become the most interesting version of ourselves. So this is where our conversation will begin again tonight, as it did last time, with Shastra. Shastra meaning some text in the Veda, so that we're rooted not in opinion, but in the actual knowledge that has been given to us. And the text that I've chosen is the Bhagavad Gita within the Mahabharata. As you may know, the Vedas are described as Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatriki, Vidyam, Vina. This means that there are different departments of knowledge. That which was heard, the Shruti. Smriti, that which is remembered. Purana, there are 18 of them. And Itihas gives us the English word history. You hear it? History, Itihas, same word. So the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are going to play a large part in our conversation tonight in this way, that in order to talk about karma, we must first talk about time. But what has happened in Western civilization and the Abrahamic traditions, with no disrespect to them, but they've made some choices that have given them just one lifetime. And we are the practitioners of a culture that holds a much wider view, a grand view of time that is billions and trillions of years for the existence of a Jagat. This universe that we're living inside of is like an entity. And in the same way that in our body, there are millions and millions of cells and billions of living entities, all as symbiotes and parasites, all living within us. You could say asuras and devas in our body, some attacking it and trying to take its life, some trying to sustain its life. Now, just move that to the grandest possible scale and say that Jagat Atma Surya Chandra Mamanaso Jata. The sun is the Atma of the Jagat, of the universe. And for us, the moon is Manas, the reflective faculty of mind. So where we begin is the conversation about karma, is the conversation about yoga, and it is the conversation about us as the Atma. So if you remember, when the Bhagavad Gita begins, it's taking place in the midst of a difficult and troublesome, tense situation of opposing forces. This is us in our body. with all those many cells I was talking about as the players. This is the Kshetra. This is Kurukshetra in one sense. Then out around us, we see it on our planet. You feel the tension. You feel the opinions and the arguments and the forces pulling in one direction or another. This is Dhritarashtra. This is Yudhisthira. This is the context of the appearance of what? Now, this is where our conversation begins, of an avatar. That is to say, avatara, the descent of someone with the capacity to heal, restore, and bring life back. So there are 10 historical appearances of Vishnu. And this is going to lead us straight into a discussion of the scope of the beings involved in maintaining, creating, maintaining, and recycling a jagat, a universe, a place that is driven by birth. It's got, going forward, ja, by birth. This jagat, this universe we're living in, is revolving. That revolution is what twists everything into DNA, twists everything through orbits, twists everything into existence, and makes everything here temporary. So, because of that temporariness, it can tip in one of two directions. It can be tipped toward the creative. So let's call that Brahma Saraswati or Rajas, the guna of creativity. Or it could tip toward Shiva Durga in their form of Rudra Kali, the force of entropy destroying everything. And just as we sit right now, we could fall over to the right or fall over to the left. We could go to one of those two gunas, tamas, and go completely unconscious, rajas, and be so filled with selfish desire we can't even think straight. Or we could do this. Would everyone do this? Not only is this respect to one another, if you hold it for a second, this is a mudra. This is us looking for the spot of perfect balance. That spot is where Vishnu and Lakshmi live. In between their two counterparts, the divine couples on either side. So this is also called sattva. Because if one knows how to go back to this spot again and again and again, the functions of rajas and tamas will be held in balance by Vishnu and Lakshmi. I would like you to think that Vishnu is health and Lakshmi is not wealth, but close. The Old English word wealth was wheel, W-E-A-L, and it means well-being. Lakshmi is not money. Lakshmi is whatever gives you well-being. So Vishnu is system balance between all the opposing principles. And Lakshmi is all of those things which create a sense of well-being, a place to live, clothing to wear, food to eat, medicines and herbs to take, all of those things which we require to live. So this is where our discussion of time begins, because in the long concept of time, this jagat that we're living in as a living entity exists for trillions of years. It's as much an entity as we are, with our perhaps 100-year lifespan. If you look on scale, then it is yata pinde tata brahmande. The little is a miniature version of the great. So we are literally a miniaturized jagat. We're a tiny, built to scale universe And that's why if you go down in us, have you seen that science picture, Powers of 10?
Hmm.
They look at the Earth and then they back up in powers of 10. And pretty soon they're light years away, and then they're thousands of light years away. Then they come all the way back, look at a tree, then look at a leaf, then go down in the leaf, then go down in each cell, then go down to the atoms, then go all the way down as far as they can. This is what we live in the midst of, and we are called Jiva Atmas. We are immortal beings who cannot die, and we have chosen to have this experience of living inside of a temporary universe, a Jagat. And this is why two of the avatars of Vishnu come as epic stories for us to participate in and identify with. And it is one of those epic stories, the Mahabharata, and the other one, the Ramayana, in which the last two or three of the Vishnu avatars have appeared. But just to refresh you, to remember, it's Matsya, Kurma, Varahascha, fish, turtle, boar, Narasingho, half lion, half man, Chavamana, dwarf, Ramo, Rama, Charamascha, Parasurama, Ramachandra, Balarama, Krishna Kalkir, Janardanaha. There are 10 Vishnu avatars who at various moments in the history of our planet come down and do something to restore that system balance, to bring this Vishnu spot back. Now, that Vishnu spot is not only existing when we make it to hold ourselves steady, but it's existing all throughout the cosmos, and when it's lost, then balance is lost, sustainability is lost. What's important about this paradigm that I've just shared with you is one, the three gunas that are the strands of reality that are now called string theory in physics. They're the strings of reality that penetrate all of existence. And we, with our free will, choose to be more tamasic, rajasic, or to become a representative of sattva. And you've heard the saying, satyam eva jayate. You will be victorious from sattva, from being a truth teller and embodying that truth. So, thinking in the large scale of history, these 10 avatars, these dasa avatars, appear at pivotal moments in history. My dear friend Nilesh Oak has written some books recently that show astronomically from the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, the truth of the dating of the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita at about 5,600 or 700 years ago. His presentation is exquisite. If you haven't seen it, look up Nilesh Oak and his presentation on this correct Vedic chronology. So why am I starting with time to talk about karma? Because time is the context in which this is going on. And our civilization, the Vedic civilization, chose to see immense vistas of time as the context in which tiny us is having our go at being here on planet Earth, Matabhumi. Now, with that in mind, the Bhagavad Gita, then, I like to call it sometimes the argument of Arjuna. because especially in chapter 6, Arjuna has an argument with Bhagavan about what is the essence of our talk in a way. So first, what happens in chapter 2, Arjuna, of course, is in the middle of the battlefield. You know what he did. He had an emotional breakdown. Powerful Kshatriya that he was, sat down on his chariot, dropped his bow, said, I quit. Right in the middle of the field. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken to him in that hour or 45 minutes or so. And the first thing that Krishna says to establish the platform is Dehinosmin yata dehe, komaram yovanam jara. Chapter 2, verse 13. We go from childhood to youth to old age and then move to another body. And that process is the process of being inside of a jagat. We do that countless millions of times, working our way from protozoa to human. According to the Veda, there's 8,400,000 species of life on a planet like ours, and 400,000 of those are varieties of human. To get to human, we've done 8 million. Classrooms, I call them, and I call the Jagat the university. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed fellow students, we are all here on a learning experience that we chose on Mata Bhumi, and we're here to gather experience and eventually go back where we came from. The Bhagavad Gita and other yogic texts describe that so that we become self-aware again to the highest degree. So now, quickly, chapter 2, just as you change clothing, so you change bodies, going from childhood to youth to old age. Such a steady-minded person who's a yogi doesn't get confused by that. Next, chapter 3, verse 10, and Krishna says, in the beginning, I sent forth all the devas, all those many, quote, non-quote, gods, those many divine beings that so upset the Abrahamic religions, or just the employees in the Universe Incorporated, and they're all over. And any great corporation has employees and a stratification of executives. So if that's confusing to someone, they're not very sophisticated. And so in our civilization, in our culture, that's exactly the case. So the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 10, Krishna says, in the beginning, I sent forth Brahmas and then Manus, and then I gave them this yajna, and all of the devas came forth. The whole thing came alive. And now you need to be grateful for what you receive from nature. So do the yajna, the Agnihotra yajna, to say thank you to the devas who are providing your food. Now cooperate with them. So this principle of universal cooperation is the basis of our civilization, the Vedic civilization. Next verse, chapter 4, verses 1, 2, and 3. And Krishna says, I originally spoke this same knowledge of yoga to Vivasvan, the deity of the sun, the deva of the sun, who taught it to Vaivasvata Manu, his son, who taught it to Ikshvaku, the human king. And in this way, and this is so important, they weren't ignorant cavemen first. When a planet is ready, the Manus come and insert the human DNA and then teach the humans why they're there, who they are, and give them yoga. And so, of course, Bhagavan says to Arjuna, and now it got lost at a certain point, this yoga, but I'm here to give it to you again. And so the hallmark event of Bhagavan giving that yoga was pivotal, 5,700 years ago. Then in chapter 6, which is about Ashtanga yoga, Krishna recommends yoga. Arjuna says, sounds impossible. They debate, go back and forth. And then finally, Arjuna says, well, what if I try to do it and fail? And Bhagavan says, well, then you go to Svargaloka, become a deva, have a vacation, come back, take a birth in a reasonable family or a yogi family, and you then resume your yoga exactly where you left it off in your last lifetime. This is also very important because if without this framework, karma is just a preoccupation with what I'm getting or not getting. It's a selfish doctrine like science used as cause and effect to change the planet without conscience. That's a problem of understanding cause and effect. It makes you be better at exploiting. So now, the next chapter, after chapter 6, where that's explained, is chapter 7, and it says, Bahunam Janmanamante, 19th verse, Jnanavan mam prapadyate, Vasudeva sarvamiti, sa mahatma sudurlabha. I'm going to close off this section by pointing out that what Krishna just said is that after many, many lifetimes, a human being who's been applying themselves to asking the important questions about our life on this planet and who we are as Jiva Atmas, finally realizes that Vasudeva, the Supreme Being, contains us all, has set this up so we can learn and grow through this. And the process by which we learn is called cause and effect, action and reaction, from life to life, or karma. So that karma then is the basis of the Bhagavad Gita and of all yoga. So the next piece in this, which is so marvelous, ties us directly into karma and astrology, Jyotish. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the 61st verse, Bhagavan says the following to Arjuna. And this is the last chapter. They're almost done. It ends in the 70s of verses. And he says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam, hrideshi Arjuna tishtati, brahmayan sarva bhutani, yantra rudrani mayate. And here's the translation. O Arjuna, I am that supreme being who is the ruler and director of all beings, and I live in the hearts of everyone, Hridaya, just as they live in a place. From there, I cause all things and all beings to revolve, to orbit, to go through cycles, to experience time, just as if, now listen carefully, just as if they were attached to a machine that turns them around and around. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the karmic merry-go-round. I hope you like the horse you're riding. Now,
I was sure I ordered a different body this lifetime.
the word yantra, I'm going to show you one. You probably know the Sri Yantra. I chose this one because it's a spectacular yantra. This yantra depicts the entire cosmos. It is full of all kinds of secrets. But that's a yantra. Now, in its easier to observe its core black and white form, same yantra. See the 9 interlocking triangles, 5 pointing downward, 4 pointing upward, holding the secrets of the cosmos. But now here's the thing you may not know. The yantra that Krishna was talking about is this yantra. It's your horoscope. This yantra is made by the positions of the planets when you were born. Their angular position in the sky creates a yantra with lines of influence and planets or grahas that are sitting inside that yantra, that are sitting inside this vehicle whose blueprint that yantra is. So the position of the planets at the moment of birth, and this means first breath, that
Doesn't Jiva Atma mean attached by breath?
grabbed
Yeah.
onto the air and an air-breathing immortal being. One who the life force or Jiva Viva life force is flowing through. So astrology is simply an engineering diagram that shows the Jyotishi the coordinates of the components of the vehicle, which are otherwise known as the Nava Graha, the 9 grabbers. Same word as gravity, same word as guru, heavy, big gravity, gravitas. So these Nava Grahas are described in a very famous book, that's the canonical book of Jyotish. And it was authored by Vyasadev's father. Vyasadeva wrote down the Vedas during the time that Bhagavan Krishna was on the ground. Vyasadeva was there dividing and writing down all of the ancient oral Vedic knowledge. So it would survive Kali Yuga. And at that time, when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, so were the Vedanta Sutras by Vyasa himself, and so was Jyotish in a book called the Parashara Hora. Parashara Hora. That's the North Indian canonical text on Jyotish. Now here's the secret. In that book, Parashara begins by saying the following. He says, Jivanam karma phalado graha rupi janar danaha. This is the key to karma. Jivanam, all of these embodied atmas who've come here are inside a yantra, like the animal they ride on a merry-go-round. That's why the zodiac is the zodiac. And all of us are riding an animal. Leo, Sagittarius, Virgo, Taurus, all those are the animal body that we're riding. And right now we're all riding an animal. A horoscope shows the animal, shows us, and shows where we are in the stream of cause and effect that we have been creating in our previous lives, working on the project of learning about the material world. So, Jivanam, that's us, karma phalado, are given the fruits of their action on a delayed program. What you did last life, you're receiving this life. What you did 10 lives ago, you may still be receiving this life. Why? I call it UPS, Universal Parcel System. The devas, the grahas, are the deliverers of the parcels of cause and effect we created, demanded, or earned in our actions in previous lives.
It's like a big computer program that never forgets.
It's bigger than Amazon. It's the galactic Amazon, where I call it UPS, Universal Parcel System. And all of these devas, these grahas, are simply on a schedule. And we who are astrologers look at the schedule and see if we can tell what parcels are being delivered at any given time.
Now, you were saying to somebody the other day that your karma comes in the form of your family, like your wife or your daughter, your son could be your worst enemy in a past life.
It turned out to be the case for the Pandavas, didn't it? Mm. In other words, what Sandy just said is, it's quite possible that what you call your family could be the place where your enemies from a previous life took birth, so they have access to torture you. If you make a new friend, that might be a new account. That's called agama, a new account. But prarabdha is old accounts that the fruit is landing. But it's not just landing, it's being delivered by UPS, Universal Parcel System, the 9 grahas. Now I want to show you the next piece here. This is really marvelous. So go with me here. There are 10 Vishnu avatars. It's described in the Garuda Purana and other places. Matsya Kurma Varahascha, Narasingho cha Vamana, Ramo Ramacha Ramascha, Krishna Kalkir Janardanaha. Now, at the beginning of the Parashara aura, what Parashara says is not only are there 9 Vishnu avatars, but the 9 grahas who deliver karma are also avatars of the 9 Vishnu avatars. And then he explains who's connected to who. So Surya is Ramachandra, Chandra is Krishna, Mars, Mangala is Narasingha, Balarama is Buddha or Mercury, Vamandev is Brihaspati or Jupiter, Parashurama is Shukra or Venus, Kurma is Shani or Saturn, Varaha is Rahu, the dragon's head, and Matsya, the fish, is Ketu, the dragon's tail. So let's hear the verse again. Jivanam karma phala do. Graha rupi, that means rupa, form and function. The function of the grahas is to deliver the ripe karma of the jivanam. Karma, phala do, ripe. Graha rupi, that's what they do. Janardana ha. Now there's the secret. Janardana is one of the names of Vishnu. Sometimes it's described to mean world mover. Sometimes it's defined one who gives what is earned. The Sanskrit is ardhati, one who dispels all difficulties and directs the Atma through the cycle of samsara. So let's think of ourselves as heroes on an epic journey. And the universe is the context. And it's held together over billions of years by 10 Vishnu avatars who come down and rebalance it when it gets out of balance. Meanwhile, those same 10 avatars are present in the construction of the Jagat as the Nava Graha, as the 9 grahas. Those 9 grahas work for Janardana also. How? They deliver the karma, the cause and effect that we've created. Why? Because in this realm, that's how everything moves forward. Jagat, it goes forward by the cycles, this is the device that the Gita talks about, that the yantra is on the merry-go-round. We're on the yantra. We're attached to our horoscope. It tells the Jyotishi about our karma, about the cause and effect we're carrying. We're still here making more because we have free will. And this brings us to the last mystery. Okay? And you're doing very well. So I'll tell you what Janardana means one more time. It means, the word in English is arduous.
Of course it is.
Yep. Janma, arduous. The Vishnu aspect, who is associated with both the avatars balancing our planet and the karma balance that takes place in us from the grahas, is Jana Ardana, the one who keeps everything balanced during your arduous journey through the realm of matter. That is what we all have in common. We're here on this adventure in a temporary vehicle, and we have a past that's still blossoming and bearing fruit. We've created actions which are creating a future. or we're deciding to be yogis and get moksha, the other option. The word moksha, the root is mo, from which we get English movement, motor, emotion, motivate. Moksha is the motivator. What is moksha? Going back where we came from. Now the last piece. Going back where we came from is called Vedanta. There are 6 darshans in the Vedic library of knowing and learning. And those 6 darshans are the 6 blind men touching the elephant. Each one seeing a part. Each one getting some true information. And those 6 darshans culminate in the last, which is Vedanta. And Vedanta asks the question, who are we? Where do we come from? And what is our ultimate destination? So here's the last piece. This is the big secret, so listen carefully. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says the ultimate secret of yoga is to reestablish a relationship with me. Of all the things you could do, it is not to merge back into the light. It is not, and this is described in the Isupanishad, Hiranmayena Patrena, please remove your effulgence so I can see your face. This journey we're on, we chose to go on it. Our individuality is not the problem. It's what we use to come here. And what the Bhagavad Gita says is when you, the individual, are ready to have a relationship with Bhagavan, then you go beyond all of the karmas that could be holding you here. Because you have to hold on to a reality. Light is not enough to complete the process because you came here as an individual. So of course, Brahman is where we come from, who we are, Aham Brahmasmi, no doubt about it, Shivoham, all true. But the culmination of our journey, our arduous journey through Prakriti, within matter, is what is described by Ram and Krishna in the final 2 most human Purna avatars. They offer themselves for a relationship, and this, therefore, in both cases, is defined as the ultimate Vedanta, the ultimate yoga. It is the same individuality that we're making the choices within matter, which the grahas are responding to by delivering karmas. Eventually, the global karma becomes so problematic that Vishnu appears personally on the planet, cleans it up, and straightens it out for another period of time. So tonight, I wanted to give you this big picture of karma, because too many astrologers and too many people, when they hear about their karma, they make a tiny little box again to live in, and it's all about my cause and effect. And that's the reputation that karma has. But in fact, karma, meaning action, as choice from us as a Purusha, as an actual person, being, from the realm of Brahman, visiting here, acting, getting consequences, and finally choosing a relationship with Bhagavan that goes beyond all of the realms of matter. And in that intimacy, the ultimate yoga, which is, of course, what is being described in the Bhagavad Gita. So I will draw this part of the segment to a close.
For those of you that are missed part 1, Jeffrey spoke about the 3 kinds of karma. It's too much to go into now, but there are 3 different kinds of karma, and you can review that one on Jeffrey's YouTube. And are you going to talk about how we can see the karma coming and step aside maybe this
Yes.
time? All right, great.
I assume we'll get some questions like
All
that
right,
as well.
perfect.
But I just wanted to go to the last little bit of the Bhagavad Gita, because at the last piece, we hear the following. We hear in chapter 18, at the very end, verse 62, Krishna says that Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasochati nakangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. That it is when you finish this journey, become Brahman again, and now are hungry for a loving relationship with me, that you withdraw your free will from manipulating matter to get what you want. You move yourself now in the direction of Brahman, but you pull yourself back there by your attachment to me. And this is why both the word Bhagavan, Bhagavan, one who possesses the Bhagas, or all that is desirable, and Krishna, the most attractive being, along with Radha, the most radiant being, those two Purna avatars are giving the final and ultimate medicine, though throughout the history of the Vedic culture, various medicines were given. But the Purna avatar's final offering is, if you take all of that free will and surrender it to me, from now on, I will deal with your karma. I will take all of it and burn it off, because now your reorientation is correct. And by the way, oriented means facing east.
Mm.
This knowledge comes from the so-called Orient. It comes from where the sun rises. It comes from Bharat. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed the culture that recognizes the billions and trillions of years of life, the cause and effect that is its basis, the free will that is the basis of us being on this journey, that we are all epic heroes on that amazing journey, and that the beauty that attracted us to matter finally attracts us back to where we come from. Thank you very much. And with that,
We'll take some questions.
we'll take some questions.
So if you have a question, we would request that you put your videos on right now and maybe type in a question. And I know we'll probably get more than we can answer, so I'll just kind of pick them as we go. Anybody has a question? Or if you can't type that much, there's a little, or just say I have a question in the message box, and we'll do that. I know that was a very long lecture, so I really appreciate everybody staying with us on that one.
That was the big picture summary, and with that, you become a Mahatma. You now have the big picture.
Namaste.
Namaste, Narayanji.
Yes, no.
I have a question. The free will you were referring to, if you pointed out, surrender that free will to the Bhagavan, and then he takes care of your karma. Now, if I do that in a current circumstances of the world, where majority of the mankind was driven by self-centered ideologies of telling people what to do or what not to do, that means the free will is already taken away from them by the massive forces I'll come to the question. I'm trying to
You've done
frame my situation and circumstance. So the forces against the free will, or institutionalized forces, or taken away the free will. Now, somebody who would like to surrender the free will to Bhagavan, on daily basis, you're encountering with the institutionalized, sabotaged free will. How do you want me to handle that situation? Should I leave it to the Bhagavan, or should I use my understanding and then face and get killed almost? Sorry if my question is clear or not clear, I'm not sure.
Brilliant question.
I think that was Arjuna's question.
Yes, it was. Brilliant question, Narayanji.
Thank you.
So the simple answer, as you no doubt know, is utista. Utista. Because if we were to think that abdication is what Bhagavan is asking for, abdicate your free will to me, then we're vacating the free will that is that which we've moved all this far with. But in fact, he's saying, surrender to me and become my instrument of action in the world, but now be fearless, be clear in your understanding who everyone is, now become the most interesting player on the field, and then whatever your particular svadharma is, we didn't cover that one, but one's own particular greatest skill set that is the karma that came with their vehicle is what they now utilize to its maximum. So surrender what to Bhagavan is your question. And it's a brilliant question. Surrender your full listening and attention so that you can be used as an instrument of Dharma throughout the world. And then we say Satyam Eva Jayate. The real Jayate is when we now are players in the world, not running away from it in the name of surrender, not disappearing, which is why I said, not getting rid of yourself. It is your ahamkara that is the problem, not the atma. We don't want to get rid of the atma, that's suicide. We don't want to disable our power. We want all of our power to be used for Dharma. And therefore, we enter the fray, but standing in a new way, strategically partnered with Bhagavan, and as active in the world according to our best talents as we can be for two things. For the truths as we understand them that are universally true, and for the well-being of all living entities. Eko bahunam yovidadati karma. Great question, Ryan. Thank you.
Someone else like to raise their hand with a question?
Dad's note 9.
All right, just a moment, I'll unmute you.
Another one of my elders. Good to see you.
I'll unmute you. There you go. Ask your question.
Thank you. Is that me?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
My name is Takudas. I'm from Malaysia, and I thank Pradeep for doing this. He's absolutely an incredible person, his energy. But in the same breath, both of you are extremely impressive, and you've put form to a great complicating substance in such an easy manner, and I must congratulate you, and I just want to hear more and more of you. Coming to my question, which is a bit cheeky to begin with, perhaps trying to be funny, but
You would expect no less.
but the more I think about it, I think it's a very profound question, profound comment, and perhaps imports a great deal of what you're saying today. And that's when I was studying in America, I saw this on a car sticker, and I burst out laughing. The back sign said, my karma ran over my dogma. I thought it was hilarious. But then when I thought about it, I could see that the juxtaposition between karma and dogma is perhaps a central theme in this issue of karma that you talk about. Can karma spell your dogma? Can dogma really create your karma? And what is the extent of your free will that you can do? And what is the meaning of dogma in the context of life? Does it have to be a precursor of karma in terms of what you think you can do, or is it the other way around? So,
You got that in?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful question. Yad yad acharati shreshtas, tat tad eve taro janaha, sayat pramanam kurute, lokas tad anuvartate. Fourth chapter Bhagavad Gita. It is to be an acharya means, you hear the word kar in there. It is to move in the same way that you speak, meaning it is to be the personal example of that which you consider to be true. So for each of us, if we look at whatever gifts we are given at any stage of our life, there is some form of seva, some form of action that is a service and at the same time gives us an opportunity to interact with the people of the world, so that by coming to know us, they gain access to this great wisdom that we've been given. There is no time when our ability to do that expires until we're ready to be thrown off the bridge because, and please throw me, if I'm in the wheelchair doing nothing, I'd rather go off the bridge. But until then, the saying is, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. The service we do to human beings in the just right state of mind, from the just right state of consciousness, gives them access to someone who's embodying these principles. The magnitude of the service does not matter. The magnitude of the consciousness of the person doing the seva transforms the world. So it doesn't so much matter what that seva is that is offered to us by our karma, but our staying in the game, and this is the most important thing I can say to the entire Vedic community. The more you become strategic at discussing your culture in the language of the place you're living in, the better you become at transporting this knowledge from the rishis and acharyas in bite-sized pieces to the people you're in the presence of. I'm convinced that the real reason we are scattered all over the globe, all of us, with this Vedic knowledge inside of us as our gift, is not to immigrate, it's to illuminate. And you do that simply by befriending people wherever you are, serving them, getting to know them, and eventually conversing with them. So let me give you the words for this. Unlike some religions who call themselves a religion, but are coercive or converting, those are the two principles we do not do. We do not coerce and we do not convert. What do? We converse. We have a conversation. So if you simply put yourself to the task of knowing how to speak of these great truths in a simple and reasonable, accessible way, gunas, doshas, atma, jagat, prakriti, brahman, it's not that difficult. And then you expose yourself to the community you're in a reasonable way, they'll finally say to you, why are you always smiling? Why are you so happy? Why are you so kind? Why are you so joyful? What is it you really stand for? They'll be hungry to know. And I believe, I'll give you my metaphor, that during the time of colonization, you know the saying, the British ruled the world with gunpowder for 300 years. and India took it back over with curry powder in 30 years. So during the time of colonization, when the world shook in fear at the colonizers, everyone was being inconvenienced and uprooted. And at that time, even Bharat herself was under dire threat. In some ways still is. So like a great banyan tree that was being cut down by horrible asuras, the tree shook and finally gathered all of its seeds and threw them out into the world. Gentlemen and ladies, that is you, that is me inside a Caucasian body that has nothing to do with who I really am. That is all of us scattered to the winds, thinking we're immigrants. I say you are carriers for the ultimate virus, the one that liberates you from the fever of the material world. Great question. Thank you.
Sorry, can I?
Go ahead. You're unmuted.
Thank you. It was very nice. You articulated it very well. But let's assume that I, in this life of mine, by my free will, intend to do take steps to do everything good in life. I'm ethical. I do great fiduciary duties. I discharge my duties. I'm not in dereliction of my cognitive faculties. I don't make wrong decisions. I don't hurt people. Assuming now I'm doing everything right by your standards or by the Vedic standards, and this is my free will. I intend to do well, but because of my prarabdha, because of my past karma, everything comes to grief and everything goes wrong. And in the process, I cause a lot of harm. I cause a lot of hurt, and I hurt people, and that in the cycle creates more bad karma. Is that fair?
Well, this is one of the questions that's answered in the Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes people do become affected by tamas because of previous prarabdha karmas that are ripening. But here's the higher solution to that, a better medicine, let us say. The point of bhakti is not just doing your duty. The point of bhakti is ecstasy. Not just mundane, ordinary, smile on my face happiness. So let's look at this slightly differently. Let's say all of life is a puzzle, and the greatest puzzle is the beauty of life. And so at first we realize that we want the beauty, then we try to get it, and we fail again and again at having it or keeping it. But if you give up on the beauty, what is the meaning of Bhagavan, if not the very source of it all? What is the meaning of Krishna? How can someone be the most attractive unless they have all that beauty? So the answer is, you must not just be good. You must not just be moral. You must be ecstatic. You must let it loose again. You must let that ecstasy go to where it belongs. And then you will light up the room when you walk in, no matter what you do.
And then I want to hang out with you.
You can be the gardener. You can be the garbage man, but you will just light up the room when that is what is on your heart and mind. This is yad yada charati shreshtas. When you get near that person, it rubs off. So it is by being the acharya and by being in the ecstasy of bhakti, not just the cognizance of it, not just the duty of it, not just like a boring soldier doing what he's told, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, but so excited you can barely contain yourself. That's the ultimate yoga according to the Bhagavad Gita. When you have that much excitement for Bhagavan, Madhava Seva, Manava Seva, just by your association, it's way better than COVID anything. It's Vedic Vid 108. You will catch that virus, Vedic Vid 108. And that one should be a pandemic, a plandemic, not a scamdemic, but a beautiful yoga-demic around the world. Great question.
Part of the work that we do when we travel to Hindu groups around the world and to youth groups is that Jeffrey teaches sound bites, almost like media training, so that when a non-Hindu person asks about your culture, for example, you know, all the dumb questions, we have a seminar called How to Answer the 40 Great Questions of Hinduism. And, you know, the media will say, oh, why do you worship cows? Or how come there's so many gods? All those crazy questions that you get. If there was a standard soundbite answer that turned that, reframed that negative frame around your culture, and we all learn to speak it in a way that is articulate, it doesn't sound, we don't go into reaction about it. We have a pre-planned answer. And this is some of the things that Jeffrey has worked on, because most of the world is speaking in English. And I know your culture is far deeper in the Sanskrit and the Hindi and the languages that you speak than English. And English is sort of a crazy language, but it is the language, the commerce language of the world. And this is where you do need to explain yourself. So it's such a great culture. And, you know, there's 100 million white yogis around the world that love your culture. And I can assure you they were probably in brown bodies in their last life. And that's karma, and that's reincarnation. And those are pods of your so-called customers wanting desperately to know about your culture.
Here's an example. If someone says to you, we're the people of a book or the book, you say, oh, you have a book? That's great. We love books. We're the people of a library. And by the way, I have read your book. I like parts of it. It was really great in certain places. Have you read our library? May I recommend a book from our library? So let me ask you, if you went to Harvard and it cost you $300,000 a year, and you went in, got your entrance, and they gave you a book and said, there's your book, welcome to Harvard.
This is the ultimate truth on physics. One book.
Or just, it's the book. This is the only book you'll need at Harvard. Or if they gave you a library card to a 20-story tall library that has all the best books in the world, which is more interesting? So this Vedic civilization is the most interesting culture that ever came down the pike, with a huge, beautiful, exquisite library. So learn to talk about it. Learn to make it attractive. And as you know, Pardeep and I put our heads together on this, and now he's implementing the suggestion that I've been putting out in this Hindu Renaissance, that mandirs just need a library. Stay at the clubhouse. It's a great to have a clubhouse, but now have a library too. And pretty soon, you'll have a stature that goes beyond just being different. So this, I believe, is the next phase for all of us to become participants. And this is what liberal means. It means liking books, or Libras. It's getting liberated by a great library.
I think that's the perfect time to hear a few words from Pardeep. Pardeep, we're so grateful that you're putting these together. Could you say a few words to everybody here?
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Jeffrey G. Sandy G. It's so mesmerizing to listen to you guys, and we can go on and on. Just like my old friend Takudas mentioned just now. He likes to pretend to be old, but actually he's not that old. Anyway, I think, Jeffrey G., you have put us on an incredible journey of learning. And each day that we engage with you, each day we engage with Sandy, we realize that there's so much the world can learn from both of you. And what you're bringing out of this great culture, this great civilization, is something that we've been missing for such a long time. And the greatness is beginning to happen. And I have no doubt that it is happening as we speak now. The change, or if I may call the revolution, literally is taking place. And as you spoke about the libraries just now, Jeffrey G., just to respond to that little thing, in Malaysia alone, about 20 mandirs have already had a library in the last, 5 to 6 months, 20.
wonderful.
And in an hour from now, I'm getting on a Zoom call with some of our friends in Bharat in India. And one of the things we're going to discuss is how to get the temples and the mandirs there to have libraries as well. So it's happening, it's going to happen. Let's all stay together, stick on this journey, because one of the most important things you mentioned just now was Satyam Eva Jayate. And I think that's going to be the reality at the end of the day. And thank you so much once again. And I'm sure we will be seeing you really soon. But I should not be closing the session. Maybe Yutuji or Himanshuji want to do that. Thank you so much, Jeffrey Ji and Sandy Ji again.
Well, if I have a minute, Pardeep, I might say that one of the things that you could have the temples do in addition to the library is actually have a library/bookstore and have, you know, paraphernalia that is relative to your culture, and open up these temple stores/bookstores to the community and invite other people into your community, because we want to know. We want to know what your great books are. We want access to them. We want to know where to buy the murchis and the deities. Community outreach.
Because the beautiful industries it'll spawn as well. And every author will start becoming a world-class author. If 100,000 of their books are sold, people will take notice. If 1,000 are sold, they'll never be seen.
On that point, Sandy, just to let you know, we have already started, but it's still kind of on a pilot stage. We have already started an online bookshop, okay? And it's called the HinduEmall.com. You can log in and you can have a look, and you know the great Nisha who's putting together all this program, this talks and all that. Nisha is actually handling that online store called HinduEmall.com. So we're still learning. Maybe in the next month or two, you'll see this will become a very, very active online store, and especially selling books that you're talking about.
Sure. I'm looking forward. HinduEmall.com.
That's right. It's already online. You can have a look at it. Everyone can have a look at it, and then give us suggestions how we can improve this and make this into a world-class kind of a thing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you for everybody for having us here and sticking with us.
More comments.
Oh.
Let some of them.
Do you want to? Okay, you too, your turn.
Before we say bye-bye to you, can all of us put our videos back? Can we on all the videos? And I want all of you, if it's possible, give some love to our teacher and his partner. And if it's possible, if you have a heart with you like me, you can show some love. If you can't, you do this and go as near as possible to the camera and say, love, we love you, we love you. Yeah, or you can do this. Time for some cameras, some time for some pictures, send some love, yeah? Thank you, wonderful. And the other thing that you can do, ladies and gentlemen, if you've already not done that, please go to Jeffrey's YouTube or any of his social media. Please press like, press love. That's the little thing that we can do to our Guru. If it's possible, contribute where it's possible. And if you can, purchase any of their books, if that's that you can do. If that's the little thing that we can do to our teachers. With that, on behalf of Global Hindu Federation and VASA for giving me this opportunity to MC, I'd like to thank and namaste.